Hello everyone, how's it going? So Horizon. Now I'm a huge fan of this franchise, and this franchise has actually sold pretty well. The first game sold around 24 million copies, and the second game sold around 8.4 million copies. So it's not exactly a small franchise. It was supposed to be one of Sony's flagship franchises, but I feel like it hasn't hit the strides as say Uncharted or even Crash Bandicoot or Jak and Daxter or Sly Cooper. But it's still a well-known franchise. They've been pushing this a lot with different merchandise and options such as the Lego figurines, which I saw that were very cool looking. But yeah, they've really been trying to push Horizon as one of the biggest franchises on PlayStation, but it hasn't been working that well, I would argue. And in addition, the game has also had a lot of issues. Like, for example, the first game launched the same time as Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Not exactly a good time to launch a game. And the second game launched around the same time as Elden Ring, another, mishap. But that wasn't their fault because Bandai Namco delayed the release of Elden Ring. So, it was just a circumstance of issue. But regardless, this franchise hasn't pivoted well when it comes to other merchandises. Like I said, they've been trying to push it into other fields, but it hasn't been working. And the latest game they've been trying to do that with is the Lego titles. And you can see here on Steam that it has 122 reviews for a PlayStation first party title. This is not a good sign. This is really, really bad. Granted, Sony's had some big releases this year: Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Despite Rebirth not meeting Square Enix's expectations, it still was a pretty big release. Another is Silent Hill 2 Remake. Yes, that did come out on PC, just like Black Myth Wukong, which was also another major hit. But, of course, we can't forget about the flop that is Concord, that reportedly cost $400 million. Not confirmed, but it's looking that way according to industry experts. Colin Moriarty said that that's how much it costs according to his insider reports. And there have been game developers on YouTube coming out talking about it, saying, yeah, that could have happened given the amount of time this game's been in development with salaries alone. But yeah, when it comes to this game, yes, it is available on multiple platforms, not just PlayStation and PC, also on Nintendo Switch. And it's still not looking good when your game has only 122 reviews on one of the biggest PC markets on the planet. On top of it, it also has a mixed review. And we can see here, people are saying, not a lot of characters, which is a big thing within Lego games, that you have a lot of characters, collectibles. The games are not exactly long, but the big appeal is getting characters, studs, unlocking new things. And apparently here, it's just not there. Even the people who have said, it's a positive game, it's fun, have stated things like it's really short, and it's just not that appealing because it doesn't have the grit or the appeal that Lego games usually do. And another issue is they're selling it for $60, which is a huge expense. Just for context, the new remaster for Horizon Zero Dawn, which I still think it's a huge bad faith move by Sony, that's $50. And the original version, which comes with the DLC expansions, is also $50. And Forbidden West is $60. And you can, of course, get this for far cheaper on eBay, as you can see here. If you want to get if you have a PlayStation 5 and you want to get the updated version of Horizon Zero Dawn, what you should do is get an eBay version of the game. It's about $10, $15. Then you can upgrade it for $10. That's what I did. A friend of mine gave me a PSN card and said, hey, this is your birthday gift. So I got the updated version. And honestly, I can't tell the difference. I've played these games multiple times. I've gotten the Platinum for the PS4 version of Horizon Zero Dawn. I got the Platinum for the PS4 version and PS5 version of Forbidden West. So I honestly cannot tell the difference between the remaster and the original version, but that's just me. Maybe someone else could, but regardless, this is a huge franchise, and selling a game that I've seen walkthroughs of this game where people have 100%ed it in 10 hours. A 10-hour game for $60 is an extremely steep cost unless you can really make it worth the person's while. I think the best example of a game being sold for full price that's very short is Dishonored. Dishonored, you can essentially beat that game in around 2 hours if you're just bulleting through the game, but because there are so many different paths within the game and so many options available, that game that was 2 hours can turn into a 12-15 hour game based on just all the options available to you, probably even more because of, again, all the different avenues of advantages that the player is given. But with this game, if you could 100% it, get everything in the game in 10 hours, a $60 price tag is very steep. And when it comes to the player numbers, it does not look good. Again, this game is available on multiple platforms. It's available on Switch, PlayStation, all that. But Steam is a general good indicator of how well a game is doing based on these metrics because, again, it is one of the biggest PC platforms out there. So when you only have around 600 people, this is worse than Concord. And you never want to be worse than Concord. And what makes this even worse is that this isn't a bad game. Like Concord, you can say was a boring game, but a lot of people based on these reviews have said that it's fun, but it's just not worth the $60 asking price. If they sold this for $40, I think people would be more forgiven for this game, but selling it at $60, I just don't know what Sony was thinking. Like, it's a really ridiculous price count for a game like this. Like, it should have been $40 at most, but I don't know what their mindset is. Like, the other thing is that Horizon isn't really a game that's very easily transferred to children. Like, this is a game tailored towards kids. It's a Lego game. Like, I get you can do that with things like Marvel, because there are a lot of Marvel-themed kids products out there from comic books, movies, animated shows, so they can easily pivot from, saying, playing I don't know, Marvel's Avengers and go and watch the animated series for Spider-Man, or even DC. Like, there are many DC animated shows that are tailored towards children. But in this case, I don't know how they would ever pivot kids from Horizon Zero Dawn to this type of game, because if you know anything about Horizon, you know it's a pretty dark game. Like, Aloy kills a lot of people, and she's only 17. That's the thing. Aloy is not even a full-grown adult. She's like 17, 20, around that age. And she stabs and shoots people violently. And she acknowledges that. She's like, I've killed a lot of people. I have no problem killing you. In Forbidden West, it really highlights that she'll kill you without even a second thought. Without even hesitating if you get in her way. And it doesn't help that the main focus of this narrative, yeah, robot dinosaurs look cool and all that, and yes, I did use the example of Jurassic Park, but when you go from, like, Jurassic Park, which are, like, you know, dinosaurs where kids are very interested in that stuff at a young age, with this game, they're going to be like, okay, they can go to Zero Dawn and then find out that a trillionaire created homicidal robots using a dumb AI that he couldn't shut down that basically turned every living creature, all humans, animals, flora, fauna, microorganisms, into biofuel, turning the earth into a desolate wasteland. And basically they sold people the idea that they would have solved the solution, but instead lied to them, gave them a railgun, and put them on the front line. Trust me, this is a really, really dark game, and I don't know how you can go from this and let your kid play something like Zero Dawn. But, you know, I grew up with Mortal Kombat, so I turned out pretty okay. But in this regard, it's just like, I don't really get it, because the other issue is that Horizon doesn't have a lot of properties attached to it. It doesn't have any type of TV series or movies, and the merchandise is very limited. Yeah, the Lego sets look very cool, but for the most part, there isn't really a huge pivot, because with Marvel, there's a huge pivot. For Jurassic Park, there's a huge pivot. For any Lego-based game that's just themed under their own umbrella, there's a huge, like I said, pivot. But what's the pivot here? There's not a lot of merchandise. There isn't a lot of animated shows or games tailored towards kids, so I don't get it. Like, I generally don't get it. I just see that Sony's trying to push this franchise to become their new Halo, but it's not that. It's like what EA did with Dead Space, if the way I'm seeing. It's like they're trying to push this franchise as hard as they can to become the next big thing, instead of allowing it to be its own thing, allowing it to grow on its own. Like, if EA just allowed Dead Space to grow, it would be bigger. It would be as big as, I would say, Resident Evil by now. Not as big, but, you know, maybe 60% there, because, you know, it was one of the best horror games not made by Japanese developers. But in this case, I just don't understand the mindset of this. I guess they were just hoping that people would like the fun game mechanics, and that would be enough to pivot the game, because unlike Concord, people actually like this game. And I can't speak for myself, because, again, I saw the price tag and I was like, yeah, I'm not paying $60 for this. If it was $40, I would have. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Love to hear other people's opinions. I really think this is another flop in Sony's portfolio, considering they've actually had a pretty good year. Yes, Concord was a massive massive flop. But when you look back on all the games they've released this year, even if they were multi-platform, they've had a lot of more bangers than any other console. They had Stellar Blade, which really got snubbed in the Game Awards, so I'm disappointed by that. Silent Hill 2 Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Yes, Square Enix had high expectations for that game, but, you know, it sold adamantly well, and a lot of people who played it really enjoyed it, including myself. Black Myth Wukong, which, yes, it's on PC and probably sold more on PC than it did on PlayStation, but still, it was on PlayStation first, not Xbox, so that was a huge win for them. So, it's just like they're going up and down. Oh yeah, Astrobot. Astrobot apparently did so well that it got a Game of the Year nomination. So, they've had ups and downs this year, so this is probably just another down. Maybe it might pick up later on, because as I stated earlier in this video, Horizon has a kind of negative history of releasing at the wrong time. The first game released around The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild didn't sell well. Then once the excitement for Breath of the Wild dialed down, a lot of people went to Zero Dawn and played it and loved it enough for it to sell multiple millions of copies. Same thing for Forbidden West. Everyone was talking about Elden Ring. Then once the hype for Elden Ring kind of died down, it's still going strong with Shadow of the Erdtree. But you know, once people wanted to look for new things to play, they saw, oh, Horizon Forbidden West is out, and they started playing it, and people generally enjoyed Forbidden West. I did too as well. So maybe this game might pick up later down the road. You never know. But tell me what you think in the comments below. That's it from me. Bye.